Hi, I'm Dean Bushmiller with Expanding Security, and this is Enterprise Architecture Principles and Practices. If you're not seeing the full version, go to expandingsecurity.com, and you can also get quizzes, badges, and this mind map with all the dynamic links in it. So let's get started. Enterprise architecture. Wait a minute. This is Janeway. This is the wrong ship. Okay, no, that won't work. Okay, so enterprise architecture principles and practices. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Now, the problem is that when we run into enterprise architecture, it is a person, it is a thing, and it's not really an architect. Okay, so what is it? Well, enterprise architecture is something that accelerates the mission in an elegant way with technology. That's its fundamental goal. The person that does this and the people that plan this seek to get as much communication between the business and the technology stakeholders as they possibly can so that they can facilitate long-term strategic system planning. This is also a collection of artifacts, and that describes the people, processes, and the technologies from an integrated business and technology perspective, bringing those two things together. It is a set of flexible descriptions that are pragmatic. These things can be used for managing and controlling the evolution and organization from a business and IT perspective. Now, so we're taking business and IT and really jamming these together tightly. If you're looking at it from an IT organization standpoint, every change has to be in balance. So the people, the processes, and technology, they all have to be working in concert. If the people go ahead and push back on the technology, then we're not going to get anything out of the technology. So we got to kind of invite them to do that. If the process by which they use that technology is cumbersome, then again, they're not going to use that technology, no matter how great it is. Now, if the IT project is working well, we're going to fulfill all our local tactical needs. This end user is going to be really happy. It's going to be consistent with the other projects in our organization. It'll contribute to the strategic goals. And if we have reusable IT assets, it will leverage those things. We need redundancies in a lot of these projects, but we want to avoid unnecessary redundancies. I worked with an organization that had 3 different license manager tools within their organization. And I said, why do you have all 3 of these? And they said, well, because the compliance department needs this, and the business development department needs this, and the IT licensing division needs this. And I'm like, why can't we go ahead and use 2 of them instead of 3 of them? Oh, no, we can't do that. Okay. We also want to reduce complexity, so we get rid of those things. Now, when we look at this from a business IT alignment standpoint, we have to start with the problem that we run into. And the problem definition is alignment is the problem. The business strategy is too vague. I really want something that does, I don't know what I want it to do, but I know I want it to do something to go ahead and make me faster. And then the IT strategies are too technical. You know, they say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and implement DNS here over VoIP, and we're going to go ahead and run a VPN to go ahead and make sure that work from home works really well, and we're going to do remote desktops. And people are like, what? Now, I hope you understand that, but, you know, a lot of business people don't. So the solution is to create a common language. Now, what do we get out of this? If we do this well, then the IT investments are going to pay off. People are going to be more happy with what they're working on, their improved satisfaction, and then business is going to be enhanced at that point. Now, engineers need architects. Technically, what we're going to do is we're going to build from a set of plans. Now, the enterprise architect builds that set of plans, and the engineers implement that set of plans. And that could look like something like this. And this is one of the enterprise architecture plans that's out there from a container standpoint. We'll come back to that later on. Now, there are 2 directly related NICS work roles for this. This is important if you're following along for the NICCS. The first one is the enterprise architect, which is what we're talking about doing, being, and then we're pointing that thing that we're touching, okay? And that's developing, maintaining business systems, information processing, and support the enterprise mission needs. and we develop technology rules. And this is a little bit more strict than we see in most corporate entities that are out there. But we create those rules and requirements that describe the baseline and target architectures so that people don't go running off in 16 different directions and we get shadow IT and all those problems that we run into. So that's the enterprise architect. Then there's the cybersecurity architect, and they're responsible for the security requirements that are adequately addressed on top of all that technology, including all the reference models, the segmentation, and any kind of solution architectures that are going to be produced at this point. Now, I think one without the other seems incomplete, but for us here in what we're talking about, we're only going to talk about enterprise architecture. I'm going to point to security and I'm going to say that's where that comes into play. That's another discussion. So just focus in on the technological process, the person that is doing it, and the components that we try to join together. Now, all of this comes from something called Plan, Do, Check, Act. Now, if you really look at it and you scrape away, you'll hear these two people called Evans and Haig, and they had a master plan for information systems. Now, think about it. In 1962, we had mainframes at that point. We didn't have anything else. Your terminal, if you were lucky in 1962, was, it was not in the server room because it was boiling hot or there or freezing cold in there. But this is a long time ago that they had these mainframes out there. What they said was, okay, look, we're spending a lot of money on compute. And still today, when the cloud infrastructures, we're spending a lot of money on compute. So we're going to establish our long-range objectives and develop basic design for requirements on information systems, kind of a requirements planning thing. We're going to analyze and define the current use of the information system. How are we using it now? We're going to make short-range improvements to the existing system that also look at and align with the long-term plan. We're going to establish a time schedule and assign responsibility for completing the long-range plan. So we're going to find the people to go ahead and do this. It's more of a project management thing. And then we're going to accomplish the plan. That was the way that they talked about it. That was the first beginnings of enterprise architecture. It kind of feels like project management, but it goes beyond that because it's taking business and technology and bringing them together. Then comes Miller and Hartwick. Then comes Zachman. And now what we have is three things that really work well together, which is TOGAF, SABSA, and ITIL. So if you ran screaming from the room at this moment in time and you said, Dean, what book should I read? Something that says these things in it, okay? Only those. Now, I have, as far as enterprise architecture books, I think I have 15 that say the word architecture in them. Enterprise security architecture in them. And then I've got a whole other set of books that are about enterprise architecture that don't even use that word in them. They say, like, what's a CISO's job? What's a CTO's job? And then they start describing enterprise architecture. So that's how you can go ahead and figure out where we are today. Now, there are some problems with enterprise architecture. There are hundreds of books that consultants decide to sell. Okay, there are very large consulting firms out there that say, oh, we have an enterprise architecture that's customized to the way we do things, and it will work for your business. Now, the problem is they've got this jargon, okay? They're trying to sell you this jargon, and it never has proved effective. And in fact, what happened was the people that I read from, my major source, says that all of the studies of all of those methodologies that were conceived of that aren't TOGAF, SABSA, ITIL, those kinds of things at this moment in time, it shows that the project managers are going crazy. Okay, they don't know what they're doing. The costs go out of control. So you bring in these consultants that have this really cool enterprise architecture planning thing, and the costs go up. The time goes up. Management's attention is consumed by this, and they're not actually working on the projects. And what they produce is crap. And I'd like to say a lot worse than that. I've been on the receiving end of this stuff. Now, the documents that are written seem like they're written in another language. And what they don't do that true enterprise architecture planning and true enterprise architects do is they don't help with decision support. they generate confusion. They are disconnected from operations. So that's when it's really bad. We're going to look at when it's really good. Now, what you need to know is if and when you really need a EA, because you have to be pretty big for this, how to implement quality communication for mission success could work without actually needing all of that stuff. And so that's what we're going to do. This is a short section on, do we need enterprise architecture? Do we really need this? Okay. So now, I shortened this up and I said, okay, when are we wasting our time on architecting? Here's a couple of questions for you. And I want you to be an enterprise architect because they make the big bucks. Okay. Right now, in your organization, do you need to fight for budget? If the answer is yes, you're not mature enough for enterprise architecture. Okay, do you have a CTO or a CIO that reports to a CFO? If the answer is yes to that one, you're not mature enough. You don't understand that you need it, or your organization doesn't. Does the CIO go to board meetings? If the answer is no, you're not mature enough. Now, here's where it gets good. Has the C-level asked you to solve complex, recurring business problems that are very complex? Now, if the answer is yes, it's kind of congratulations. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go back to management and say, if you want me to solve that problem, go back and give me 1, 2, and 3. Don't remove their pain until they agree to those things. You get it in writing and you have a contract, because if you don't get those 3 things, you will be wasting your time. And they'll go, yeah, we want you to go ahead and do it, and we'll give you a raise later, and we'll go ahead and give you a seat on the board and those kinds of things. Otherwise, no. Okay, so I really want you to do that. I want you to go back and look for those things so that you can actually achieve the objectives of enterprise architecture planning. Now, the next thing that you want to look at when you need enterprise architecture is how big or how complex your organization is. Now, these are some general kind of measures that you can have, and it may be that you achieve 2 or 3 of these, but not all of these. Okay, first off, do you have more than 1 external audit per year? That's kind of an indicator that you need enterprise architecture. Are you working in more than 10 time zones? Do your employees work in 10 time zones? Do you have more than 50 IT specialists within your organization? And that includes both security and technology specialists. Do you have more than 100 mixed-use servers? Do you have more than 10,000 active customers in your organization? Do you spend more than $100, pounds, euros per month on compute? That would probably be like on the cloud side of things that would happen. And do you have more than $1 million, pounds, or euros per month in gross income? If you answered like 2 or 3 of these things, yes, you need enterprise architecture. But go back and make sure that if you are the enterprise architect, or they're asking you to solve those big gnarly problems, that you have a seat at the table when it comes to any board, that you're reporting directly to the CEO and not to any other C-level position, and that you have your own budget, and that means that you can redirect and take money away from somebody else. It's not, here, we'll give you a budget. It's that money over there, we need that pot of money and we'll pull back on that. So that's how you know you need enterprise architecture and that you can get enterprise architecture.